The Whispering Shadows of Bhaktapur. In the ancient city of Bhaktapur, a place where time seemed to stand still, a young man named Rohan moved into an old house that had been vacant for years. The house, nestled at the edge of the city, was known among the locals for its eerie silence and the strange happenings that surrounded it. The windows were always closed and the air around it seemed thick with an unsettling presence. Yet, Rohan, a newcomer who had come to work as a teacher, was not one to believe in superstitions. He had heard whispers from the villagers, warnings of strange occurrences, flickering lights, shadows that moved on their own, and the soft sound of chanting in the dead of night. Rohan brushed them off, thinking they were nothing more than old legends meant to scare outsiders. But one night, he found himself alone in the house as a storm raged outside. As the wind howled and rain battered against the windows, Rohan sat in his study, reading. The house creaked with every gust of wind, but it wasn't the storm that unsettled him. It was the soft whispering. At first, he thought it was just the wind, but the whispers grew louder, as if coming from somewhere within the house. He stood up, his heart pounding in his chest, and followed the sound down the dark hallway. The whispers led him to a small, hidden door in the corner of the house that he had never noticed before. It was old, with intricate carvings that seemed to tell a forgotten story. His curiosity overcame his fear, and he opened the door, stepping into a narrow staircase that descended into darkness. The air grew colder with each step. As he reached the bottom, he found himself in a room lit only by the flickering light of candles. The walls were lined with strange symbols, and in the center, a large stone altar stood covered in dust and old offerings. But what truly caught his attention were the shadows. The shadows on the walls were not static. They moved, shifting and undulating, as if they were alive. Rohan's breath caught in his throat as he realized that the shadows were not mere tricks of the light, they were watching him, waiting. Suddenly, the whispering grew louder, almost deafening. It was no longer just a whisper, it was a chant, a call. The shadows seemed to grow taller, their forms becoming more distinct, with glowing eyes staring out from the dark. The temperature in the room dropped, and Rohan could see his breath forming in the icy air. He tried to back away, but his feet felt heavy, as though the shadows were pulling him in. With a final scream, Rohan turned and fled, running up the stairs and back into the main house. But no matter how fast he ran, the shadows followed, whispering his name in a language he couldn't understand. The air in the house felt thick, as though it was closing in on him. The whispers were all around him now, and in the reflection of the window, he saw them, dark, elongated figures with hollow eyes, their faces contorted in twisted grins. Rohan didn't stop running until he reached the door, throwing it open and bursting into the stormy night. But when he turned to look back at the house, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The shadows were no longer just inside the house. They were outside, too. They were standing at the windows, their faces pressed against the glass, watching him with their unblinking eyes. Rohan never spoke of that night again, and no one ever saw him again after that storm. The house, however, remained, and the villagers still whisper of the shadows that haunt it. They say that if you listen closely enough, you can hear the whispers calling you by name, pulling you into the darkness, where the shadows wait for their next victim.